Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again today is Shea Dixon. Shea, this is not our mailbag pod. For programming purposes, we will have a mailbag pod tomorrow, most likely,
Yes, with a special guest.
with a special guest.
Spoiler, it'll be Billy and Body. Reuniting with LSU fans from the Ole Miss side. So
Yes, so
I've gotten a
mailbag
verbal.
pod,
I've gotten a verbal commit
verbal
from
commit.
Billy, so he can't flip off that.
Yeah, so mailbag pod Tuesday with Billy. We have some Ole Miss questions. We have some LSU questions. Everything, then all of us will talk and have a good time, whatnot. We wanted to get out ahead of this, though, so that we didn't have to talk about it tomorrow. Injury updates and LSU's permanent opponents or annual opponents both were big talking points of today. So we wanted to get something quick out there to y'all just to talk through all of this stuff we didn't talk about Sunday and stuff we're not going to talk about tomorrow. So we could start, Shea, with the injury report, which going into it, I had the Caden Durham and Gabriel Relaford. Like, that was the two things we were watching for. But, Trey'Dez Green and West Weeks also missed the Southeastern game, which was substantial. And we were waiting to see what their status was as well. So you had four starters potentially, in the air in terms of going into this game week of Ole Miss. If you want to run through them, their statuses, and just what we know so far.
Yeah, Brian Kelly just came out and said it on all four of them ahead of when they have to release the injury reports.
Yep.
And I'd say the only bad news to come out of the four is that Gabe Relaford, who was in a sling, he had popped his shoulder out during the game. He didn't finish, obviously. That he's not going to play this week. And Brian Kelly said that I'm assuming they're going to try to see how I don't know if he's got some swelling or what, but that he may need surgery. They just don't know yet. They want to watch as the week goes on and then decide if you have surgery. I'm imagining that's keeping you out for a while, if not the year. And he said the other option would be that he just kind of plays through it. I'd imagine wearing some sort of shoulder brace. So are we calling Gabe Relaford? Is he a starter? He's kind of
He's a starter.
1A, 1B.
Oh, with Peyton, yeah, 1A, 1B.
FSU transfer, yeah. Patrick Peyton. But we were going through the snap counts earlier when we were talking about it, and Patrick Peyton just came in from FSU, has played that DN spot opposite of where Jack Pyburn plays, and then behind him, Jamari Butler. He's had 133 snaps, and Relaford's had 85. This was one in fall camp, Matty B, that was like back and forth, and not in the way that like left guard was, where you just didn't know what was going to happen. It was just good to see Relaford as a sophomore pushing someone who was very proven already in Patrick Peyton coming from FSU. So that's not far off in snap count. So clearly they leaned on both of them.
And
I guess we start there.
You were right. Peyton did technically get the starts in those four games too. So,
and it's like most positions outside of quarterback or something, like whoever takes the first reps doesn't really matter if you're ending up going, 50-50 or a little bit. I guess that's about 60-40 is what they have. So that's a loss, right? And Relaford's played really well. This is that edge spot opposite them. But Brian Kelly listed off the entire roster when he talked about guys that could step up here. I know Butler plays the other side. That's such an intriguing side to me, though, because Pyburn is a run stopper and Butler's the opposite. He comes in and on third downs and he's your pass rush specialist. Do you play him some when you're giving Patrick Peyton a breather, or are you going to whomever might be third on the depth chart here?
Yeah, I would think you'd give Butler some of those Relaford reps. I mean, he's already going to be on the field enough, but I think I'm okay with not taking Pyburn off the field as much and just kind of rotating those three around. No disrespect to anybody else on the depth chart, like, the Carpenter, Cobbins, Jacksons, and whatnot. I just think there is a pretty clear line of division between the top four that we had going into the season, which includes Relaford, and everybody else here. So not saying we won't see the others, but I think we will see some sort of Dylan Carpenter or whatnot. But Jamari Butler, Pyburn, and Peyton, I think you just work it out between those two. If it's a running, if it's a down where you anticipate the run, obviously Pyburn will be out there. If it's a third and 11, you probably put Butler and Peyton out there and just roll.
Yeah, I think that the good thing about this D line is they're deep. I
Yes.
mean, whether it's the interior or whether it's your two in spots that with Perkins playing that star position, they've built up some depth at those two spots. So I hate it for Relaford, man. This is
That's
kind of
tough.
the first significant injury of the year. I know Solomon Thomas was out. He's a true freshman. Nuss has been banged up, but he's still playing. Relaford now is someone who was playing every week and now won't go in the SEC road opener, and we'll have to see if he's going to have surgery. So best of luck to him. And unless Kelly comes out and says an answer, we'll see it this weekend of how they handle not having kind of the other guy in a 60-40 timeshare.
Yeah.
The good news is, though, on the other three, and I
Can I say
can't say
one
I'm
more thing on
surprised, but
Rutherford real quick? Just
yeah,
before we,
please. Yeah, we're not
just
fighting anymore, so just we let it go. This is what we do. Please, Matthew, say something.
please, thank you. He is already at 4 games, so it's not one of those things where you can roll him out there and see how it goes. You got to decide this in practice because if he plays a 5th game, you don't get the redshirting. So I
Unless you're
think,
trying to medical him or something like that.
yeah, I don't know exactly how all that works, but yeah, I would think you try to decide that in practice and in the next 2 weeks, and just because it's a bye week after this week, so he's not playing. You have a bye week, you can make a decision, then go from there. So that is something else I was just interested in.
Yeah, but definitely he's out. I mean, we didn't even have
Yes.
to wait for an injury report.
Yeah.
On the flip side, no need to wait for an injury report on our main man, two sports star Trey'Dez Green at tight end. He'd already played 70 something snaps. They rely on two tight ends heavily. Very different players, but between he and Oklahoma transfer Bauer Sharp.
Yeah.
But look, they're really good in the red zone this past week, but we've talked about Trey'Dez being that red zone threat, all of that. He looked good in warmups for Southeastern. There was no need to play him, obviously. And then Brian Kelly comes out today and just says he's playing. Like, we're good. And when he suffered the knee injury and the MRI came back with nothing torn, or what I think the exact injury was a meniscus or
I thought it was a sprained MCL.
sprained MCL is what it was. Okay.
I think so.
I'm no doctor, obviously.
Okay.
But yes, I'll trust you. Sprained MCL. We debated, would it be this game or would they do what you just said with Relaford? If he's healthy enough to play in a couple of weeks or play through it, you get a bye, then you get South Carolina. So you've bought yourself a couple extra weeks of just rest. And the answer's in. He's going to play versus Ole Miss, which is huge. I mean, he's one of your better weapons on offense. Total, at least mismatch wise.
Yeah.
So great news there. The expected news on West Weeks that he'll be back, starting linebacker, and you'll obviously have Witt as well. So Zach Weeks will take a back seat for a while, the younger brother, and Devon Keys has held his own, so he's still going to play. But good to get a starter back. I think what he lists him as likely or probable, but
Yeah, probable. He said he's at
he's got a
90%.
calf strain, and look, the Weeks could be at 40%. They're playing through it. So he'll play. And then the only other one was Caden Durham, who came up limping in that game. And he said they thought it was just a sprained ankle, but they wanted to do an MRI. And then Kelly said today on Monday that it was even better than they thought, that it wasn't negative on the MRI and not a high ankle sprain. So
he said right after the game, high ankle sprain. And then he came back and was like, no, it wasn't. And Pete Thamel also.
Smart coach. You just go for what could be very bad, so that then you reel the fans back in with good news. And you've reeled them back in.
Thank God. Now you got people like us saying, oh, it's all good news, actually. So, but yes, Durham, I assume questionable would still be the classification.
He said day to day. Yes, I guess that's questionable.
So we'll see.
But better than him having some sort of injury that they were like, look, he probably isn't going to play. And we don't have to, I'm sure in the mailbag people are going to ask about this, so I'm not going to get into the Juwan Johnson, Caden Durham back and forth. You and I both agree that they both have a role on this team. And if I'm going to Oxford and I'm still trying to figure out a way to run the ball consistently, I want Caden Durham there. He's my RB1. He's done it in the SEC before. I love Juwan Johnson. But if you don't have Caden Durham, you just have Juwan Johnson. Now you're moving on to Caleb Jackson and Harlan Berry and others getting more reps than what we've seen. So if you're an LSU fan, you've kind of got your fingers crossed here. I don't really care if he's had some poor vision or the line's not blocked well for him and he's kind of in his head. I don't know what it is that's differentiated between a year ago and now, from a freshman to sophomore, but he's one of those guys that, I mean, he runs like a 10-3 Matty B. He's 220. He's proven it before. Any game you could look up and he breaks a couple of big runs and he's got 80, 100 yards on 18 touches or something. So
Yeah, he has the big playability that this team needs.
yes,
Again, first play against Clemson turns stuffed run into a 20-something yard run. Like, you just need one or two of those plays every game from him, and that's what you hope. And Juwan Johnson will give you some as well. I think we saw in the past game, or in the past game. So yeah, that's interesting. Trey'Dez, just to go back on that real quick, I thought he looked fine in warmups. Obviously, like, the brace stands out when you just watch him because it was a big brace on his leg, but it was obviously precautionary. I'm interested to see, if he plays with a brace or if he plays with just a sleeve or how exactly that goes. But regardless, he'll be out there, and I think that they're comfortable right now with how Sharp's playing. You can use Green in kind of a situational sense, and I think they're in a good spot. So overall, all good news except Rutherford, I'd say, and hopefully Durham is good to go on Saturday.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to get into the back and forth on Durham, but I was looking at his stats from a year ago because remember he broke out on the road against South Carolina as a freshman when they were trying to figure out the run game and had a really nice day. Ran for 98 yards on 11 carries. But I mean, he went over 100 one time in an SEC game. That was Arkansas. It was also tied for the most touches he got all year, 21. He got 21 in the Florida game. He ran for 95. So, look, when he was getting 11 touches in the OU game, he broke a 50-yarder, right? That is a game with 80. But I'm looking up and down, like Vandy, 14 for 60. This Ole Miss game was actually his worst a year ago. It was right after that South Carolina game in the SEC schedule. But 12 for 37, so 3 yards a carry with a 13-yard run. So I think he's just kind of working his way back there. Like, I'm not going to be surprised. Like, this is what he does. If he gets 10, 12 carries, you may get 30, 50 yards. If he gets 20, you may get close to 100 because he's going to end up breaking one or two. So I want Caden Durham out there no matter how he's looked so far.
I agree. All right, there's the injury report.
Pretty good news outside of Relaford.
Yeah, pretty good news overall.
And Garrett Nussmeier was not even brought up by Brian Kelly other than to say, sort of doubling down on the reality that what you saw in this game was a healthy Nussmeier after a healthier Nussmeier after a healthier week of practice. I don't know what 100% will be, but it seems to be like whatever his full strength is, Matty B, he's a lot closer to that than he was the first 3 weeks. And look, people are going to say it's Southeastern. Like, of course you can throw it deep. Like, he wasn't doing that in the other games, not even against La Tech. So
no.
He ran the football. I mean, it was very clear that the torso injury, which was holding him back to whatever degree it was, didn't hold him back in week 4. So very good news there. Probably the best news out of all of it, given that he's not even being mentioned by Kelly anymore as being injured.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the second half of this pod where we talk about the SEC annual opponents, which was scooped by our boy Chris Lowe of On3.
On3 Zone.
I think the SEC was planning a television show tomorrow to talk about it.
I'm sure they're still going to
have it. They're still going to do it, but
it's just like On3's Brett McMurphy. He'll just put out every bowl game matchup before they have the bowl game selection show. So our national team, Shane and Terry, has put together a hell of a squad, but these guys are just going to break all the news before it comes out.
You're going to know everything
good reason
ahead
to
of
be
time.
on On3.
Yes.
Well, go ahead and give the lay of the land here first. This is a 4-year stretch.
Yes.
Of 3 starting next season, of 3 teams you'll play every season. So we've been in this kind of no man's land of the East and West not existing right when they merged and welcoming Texas and OU. And we knew that there would come this time next year where we would find out 4 years into the future of who you would play each year. Bama is not on the 3, but I already saw what Brian Kelly commented on today was that, well, you'll get them every other year. And then across 4 years, you'll get a home and an away. So yes, you lose the every year November 7th, but I don't think that's the worst thing. I like the shakeup here. So If you're watching on YouTube, there's everybody's. We won't read off everybody's, but
Yeah, let me zoom
every
in.
year for the next 4 seasons, LSU will
Where did LSU
play.
go? There they are.
They'll play Arkansas, Ole Miss, and A&M. And I thought the SEC, look, kudos to Sankey, Herb Vincent, everybody up in Birmingham. I even surfed a lot of the boards. Like, I don't think anyone got shafted. They did a good job geographically, but also talent-wise, not to kind of have any team like, look, go back up to Bama.
I would say, where'd Bama go? Yeah, here's Bama.
At the top, Bama, Auburn, Tennessee, and State. So, like, people
Yeah.
view State right now down and out. They're 4-0, but Auburn could have a good team any year. Tennessee's on the up and up with Heupel. So, like, I think people were immediately going to knee-jerk Bama of like, oh, well, like, they got the easy way out. Did they draw Vandy, Kentucky, and State or something like that? And that wasn't the case for anybody. And it can't be perfect. And I just still look, again, I'm not going to read them all off. But when you list off Arkansas, who's a team in the NIL era, Matty B, we talked about this. It's got a lot of money from donors, but they pour it into basketball right now.
Yeah.
And A&M's got a lot of money, but they've also gone through a number of really good head coaches and still haven't gotten beyond that hump that they want to. And then what the third opponent would be Ole Miss, who it's Ole Miss week, Ole Miss hate week, rivalry week, LSU hate week, whatever you want to call it. I think it's fair to say yes. Like, they had the Houston Nut years. There was the year where State and Ole Miss were 1 and 2 in the country, but the Lane Kiffin years right now of being every year a top 15 team with one of the best offenses in America is probably the height of what Ole Miss is going to reach.
Absolutely.
So, like, it's not like Ole Miss turns into Bama or Georgia. So it's funny, I was talking to some sources on the LSU side, and they agreed, and look, they had already known this. They'd been in SEC meetings, but they felt like everyone at each school kind of felt good about it and can kind of revisit it down the line in the next 4 years and shuffle it up again. But I think that LSU got a good draw here, and you would point out that in each team in the SEC, 14 teams now?
16.
16, I'm sorry. That you're playing 3 teams. You get a heavyweight. Everybody gets a heavyweight. LSU's the heavyweight of their pod. And that's a good spot to be in, right? You didn't draw Bama. You didn't draw Texas. You didn't draw Georgia. You didn't draw, any of these teams that you expect every year will probably be competing to win 10, 11 games.
Yeah. The big hitter LSU got is A&M. And even then, A&M has not lived up to expectations in terms of what they are and have been. Not saying now, I actually think Mike Elko is the best
coach
position to get them there. But again, even still, you're not Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Those are the 3 along with LSU that you put in that have won national titles that you would expect to be there every year. Texas, not since 2005, but still. I think it's a great draw. I think I wrote about it today. I think you look at it, first of all, you look at it, especially which LSU fans will, in terms of year over year, when you look at these 3 games, can you go 3-0, or can you at least go 2-1? And I think that's a very safe assumption with this group. Now, if you swapped out Arkansas with Alabama, then we're having a very different discussion in terms of the challenges of this. But you have Arkansas, who I think LSU's won 8 of the last 9, I believe it was. Yeah, 8 of the last 9. Ole Miss and A&M have gone back and forth with home games. Basically, the home teams won.
And a down stretch for LSU in recent years, as Kelly builds the program.
Yeah, so typically, like we said, Lane Kiffin has Ole Miss operating at 100% capacity, and if he ever leaves or if there's a dip at all, then you will, have Ole Miss as back to where they usually are, which is a bottom half of team in the SEC. They might not be terrible. They might not be,
or at least middle of the pack.
Yeah, at least middle of the pack. They're not winning 10 games a year like they are with Lane Kiffin right now. So A&M is the one that you're like, okay, year over year, that's going to be a tough game because they have resources. Usually they have a competent head coach like I think they do right now, and we'll see how it goes. But overall, I think it's a great draw, and I'm excited to see, how it plays out year over year.
The one big one in the SEC that people, and look, for me, losing LSU Florida every year,
that sucks.
Guaranteed sucks, because Florida doesn't consider LSU their rival, and LSU doesn't have that true rival, given that they're the only team in the state and everybody else in the SEC sort of is paired up with somebody. over time, at least in the eyes of the fan base. But those two programs hate each other so much. I mean, it did, and that was truly like throughout the record type matchup. It didn't matter. I
Crazy
mean,
stuff.
they would just come and deliver great shows every single year. I think I have the Bama fatigue of that game always being the first week in November. Both teams get buys. Like no LSU fans really talked about it. I can understand why. I was most shocked going around to the boards that the Bama board was very upset not to have LSU because the fans were saying, "Hey, look, if I'm just going to be honest, that's my favorite game to watch." I felt like they just won every time. I would have thought that they would have not given LSU the sort of flowers that a lot of Bama fans were giving them. I don't know if they just think back to the less years of Saban and it being kind of tight, low scoring games, or
Yeah.
think about the Joe Burrow years. But there was a good stretch in there where Bama just was on a hot streak of winning every time, and LSU coming up snake eyes. But Bama had a lot of respect for LSU. The fans did of winning that game. But I think the biggest SEC one, Matty B, is that we're not getting Georgia, Tennessee, are we? No.
No, I don't think so. Let me go. Tennessee has Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. One
So
of
no
probably
Tennessee, Florida.
the easier draws. And yeah, no Tennessee, Florida.
So the old SEC East battles are
So
gone. Georgia does have Florida for the cocktail party, but they don't have Tennessee. That was the one that I saw a lot of fan bases saying I wish they would have kept, but
yeah,
kind of hard to stack Tennessee on top
with
of.
with how divisions were a thing for so long, like most of these teams have like 4 or 5 teams they're like would like to play every year in terms of fans. LSU is to another level. Brian Kelly said it himself. He's like, I think we have like 6 teams that you could put here, and I think it's very true. So yeah, it does suck that you look at some of these matchups, but they're not coming back with divisions. So I think this is the best we were gonna get.
I think by and large, too, the SEC West was considered to be the better, deeper side of the conference for the past decade. You know,
Yeah,
there when
like Florida
the
and
other
Tennessee would
side,
be up and
yeah,
down and
South
stuff.
Carolina wasn't great for a
Yeah,
stretch. So you had
Vanderbilt.
Kentucky, Vandy, South Carolina, all these teams in the East that you would look up, and Georgia played like two hard teams
Yeah,
all year. They were great. They beat everybody by a lot because they're a great football team, but they weren't in the West where it was like anybody could beat you any week. So I think that the East is getting a little taste of what everybody else has
yeah.
gone through.
I'll
But I will
say,
say,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off here.
No, go ahead.
Being very polite on today's pod after the Sunday night fight. It's like wrestling. You know, it's not. This isn't real.
It's not
We
real.
don't hate each other.
It's not real.
It's an act. Chris Lowe, who broke this news, talked about this on Andy and Ari's show today on On3, Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman, that everyone's calm today and is like, cool, I like these. Wait till they release the rest of your schedules.
Yeah.
And then you'll start to see people say, well, this team doesn't have to play anybody, and we have to play Georgia, Bama, LSU, or whatever it might be. Because when you have 16 teams and you've added Texas and OU and they're good,
Mhm.
it's impossible. Yeah, you can make 3 permanent opponents look pretty fair for everybody and kind of work it out geographically. When you've added an SEC game and you're trying to fill out a whole schedule, it's not going to be able to be even for everybody.
Well, I'll say this as well. Like, yeah, if LSU ends up getting Bama and let's say like Tennessee, who's up right now, like Bama, Tennessee, I don't know, somebody else, and Ole Miss is up right now. Like we said, in the big picture, Ole Miss, the past 40 years, I think I did when I wrote the stories, like since 1973, has been in the top 15 at the end of the year 3 times or something like before Kiffin. And now they're operating. So it's kind of like it's just going to be ebbs and flows of, oh, Ole Miss and Tennessee are really good this year, and like let's say and Vanderbilt's obviously good this year. So it's like it's just you're going to be year over year, but like, oh, why do we have to play these guys? Well, some teams are better than usual, some teams are worse than usual. It's just going to be a mess. I will say I do think A&M and Arkansas, who both have the same 3. I don't know if anyone noticed this. A&M and Arkansas both have LSU, Missouri, and Texas as their 3s. That's a pretty tough pairing for A&M and Arkansas. I'm not saying it should be anybody else, but those are. I mean, Missouri has not so quietly, I'd say, over the past decade, 8 to 10 years or so, has been pretty consistently like a 8+ win team, and not an easy one. So if that's your easy game, that's not that's not a comfortable easy game for Arkansas and A&M year over
I'll
year.
give you the past 20 years, which seems like a lot, but some of us are getting older. That's only dating back to 2006 here. LSU's won multiple titles in that stretch. But and look, I think that as the SEC expands, we have to realign our thinking. And that goes with the college football playoffs. Like right now, if you're in the SEC and you win 10 games, like you think you're getting into the college football playoffs. Like if you go 9-3, that's not a bad season. If you have to play a lot of really hard teams, it's actually a really good year. But I think 10 wins was a benchmark for a really good SEC team over the past 20 years. Ole Miss has won 10 games or more 4 times in the past 20 years. Now, granted, 3 of them have been in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And that includes this year, and they're 4-0. So they have a chance to do it 4 times in the past 5 years. So certainly, as you said, they are on the high end of what their normal performance is. A&M has won 10 games 1 time in the past 20 years.
And they went 9-1 in the COVID year as well, which is good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I'm not looking at that. So
no, for sure. I
in.
always remember that was their year. It was like they're gonna do it with Kellen Mond. No.
Arkansas has won 10 or more games 3 times, but the most recent time was in 2015. So 3 times for your permanent opponent in Arkansas that they've hit 10 wins in 20 years, 1 time for A&M, and we'll give them the COVID year, so 2. And then you've got Ole Miss, who I said, 4 times? 1, 2,
yeah, 4 with 3 under Kiffin.
4 in the past 20 years, and they're in that year right now. LSU is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're into the double digits of 10-win seasons across past 20 years. And they've been undefeated once, and they've won a couple titles. So backs up what I said earlier. LSU is definitely the heavyweight of the pod.
Yeah. I think someone on our board said, I don't remember exactly, but it's the 3 teams in LSU's pod have no national championships, and I don't think they have an SEC title either. So, I mean, in terms of like the scheduling, I think you've worked it out pretty well in terms you're not playing Bama. You're not like even Florida on an average year, like if you took their median or their average outcome, it's higher than Ole Miss. It's higher than Arkansas. And honestly, it's probably on par, if not higher than A&M. Like if we're talking all time, I mean, it's probably higher than A&M. So,
I mean, even Florida has won 7 times. They've hit 10 or more wins over the past 20 years, and they've been through like 4 coaches in that stretch.
Yeah, Florida's peaks. Yeah, we know Florida's gonna have athletes. We know Florida's gonna like if they get the coach right, then they're actually good. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there you go.
Great draw for LSU.
Yes,
we don't know the full schedule yet, but if that's who you have to play each year guaranteed, you couldn't have asked for anything better. I don't think.
No, I agree.
I guess you could 100%. Have if you wanted like Kentucky,
Mississippi State, Arkansas.
State's 4-0, so I can't hate on them right now. Yeah,
true.
Arkansas, and then whomever else you want to. I mean, I can't get off on and roll Vandy out there. They're 4-0 and ranked top 20. So SEC, it just means more, but
it does.
I like this draw. If you're an LSU fan, you got to be happy with it. You didn't get screwed by the SEC offices or anything like that. They're good to go.
Yeah, credit to the SEC.
They made up for the targeting on Whit Week's call.
Oh,
nice schedule.
God. All right.
But you're in agreement, right? This is solid. You'll take it.
I am in agreement. I think it's a good draw for LSU. I think honestly across the board, like you, I was looking around to see who got the short end of the stick, and I don't think, like I said, Arkansas and A&M got tough draws because Texas and LSU and Missouri, but that's not even like terrible to me. So
no, and even look at a Vandy who you would consider like the bottom rung, even though they played very well under Clarkley and my man Barton Simmons in recent years with Pavia. They get to keep Tennessee as the in-state matchup. They get Auburn, who right now is a middle of the road team, but is capable of more, and State. So that's not incredibly daunting even for a Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and I will say for Arkansas, those were the 3 that it like had to be basically. Missouri was always going to be there, Texas was always going to be there, and LSU was the battle of the boot. Like those are the 3, unless you I guess threw in Oklahoma, but I think those are the 3 that geographically speaking and rivalries, like if we're trying to keep the traditions and what we're doing here, like that had to be the case. A&M had to have Texas, probably had to have LSU because geographically, and then they just threw Missouri at A&M.
I will tell you the one board on 3 that I jumped around. This is if you're a member of the Bengal Tiger, where Maddie B and I are at all day. We've turned out, God, Maddie B, I think we were at 20 stories already today. It's not even mid-afternoon.
We did a lot.
So a busy day, but we take some time out here to talk to you guys on this platform. But encourage you to sign up because you can read every board. Auburn's in melt mode. They just kind of gave away a game. Not really. They just got beat in a tight game on the road at OU, but they got, I'm not going to say screwed. They lost by a small margin in a game when the SEC had to issue a statement saying that one of OU's touchdowns should not have even have counted. So they're upset about that. This morning, Chris Lowe breaks this news of everyone's scheduled. They draw Bama and Georgia, and they give them Vandy, but Vandy's undefeated. Vandy's like good at football right now. So they're upset about that. And then about an hour later, Bruce Pearl retires and Stephen Pearl takes over. So their board is in like bad things happen in threes. Maybe this will stop mode, but it is not a good time for Auburn fans. They feel like they're just being dealt blow after blow right now.
Who does Auburn play next week?
And for those that don't know, Bruce Pearl, I guess the buzz has been that he's going to get into politics. So I guess if you get into Bama like Tuberville, like if you go over there, you're immediately into politics. But his
got out.
His son Steven
game day
is gonna step in, is what they're saying. So
Auburn's
a very odd day, right, Maddie B?
Yeah.
Bruce Pearl not coaching in the SEC anymore is weird, or anywhere.
Setting up for LSU this year.
No,
here we go. Auburn's next 3 games at A&M, home against Georgia, then home against Missouri. So they better get right. It's gonna snowball.
I think they've got a good team. They play good defense. I like Jackson Arnold more than most. So,
and then they end the season with Arkansas, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. So
just make it to November, boys. You got this, Auburn.
We'll see if they can do it. Look at us trying to help out Auburn on another.
Well, the Bama fans were very kind to LSU fans today, so I'll repay it in the state and show a little love to Auburn.
Look at y'all.
I always like the Auburn series. I miss the SEC West.
Me too. Honestly.
But hey, look, we'll get the rest of the schedule. Maybe they get Florida, Auburn, some of these Bama. You're going to get Bama every 2 years. You're going to rotate all these games. So at least you'll get a chance to play everybody. You get a home and an away. But I'll be interested to see how it stacks up. If you have to go heavy one year and then you get it light, or what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got. Anything else?
No, like we said, Gabe Relaford being out for the Ole Miss game is the only notable injury news. Everybody else seems to be trending in the right direction. So it'll be a good one. We have a lot of stuff coming to the site this week, a lot of podcasts to do, but first SEC road game, couple of undefeated teams, LSU and Ole Miss, and a 2:30 kickoff in Oxford, Maddie B. You'll be there.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir. Subscribe to the Bengal Tiger On3 if you are not already. We are rolling. We got a bunch of content over there, obviously. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube side, please sub, leave us a like, comment, and share. It all helps us out. So, yeah, thank you all for joining us. Tomorrow, mailbag with Billy and Body. Tune in. Can't wait to talk to our guy. LSU Ole Miss week.
Just like old times.
We're ready for it. But yeah, that's Jay Dixon. I'm Matthew Brune. Thank you all for joining us. We will talk to y'all later.